Not on my watch.
Clear!
Hi, everyone. This is Cat CPR. I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome back to another episode. Matt, today I was exposed to some new doctrine. Actually, maybe not today, but this week I was exposed to some new doctrine. And I've got to run it by you because when I came across it, I was like, well, Matt's a lot more experienced when it comes to talking to people about their faith and what their beliefs are. And as we know, for every belief, there's probably like 1,000 different faiths for that belief. It's like there's denominations and there's different flavors of denominations. So first off, as some of the cats may be aware of this, may not be aware of this. My daughter was immersed into Christ this past Wednesday evening. Tremendous victory.
Absolutely.
Probably what any parent can hope for.
Yep.
Their child making the decision to dedicate their life to Christ.
Yep.
Now you've got adult children. I
Yep.
have one adult child. My son's still growing up, but I've learned that you're always learning as a parent.
Yes.
I mean, you're always learning what to do, what's the best way to guide them, et cetera, correct? And do you still find yourself doing that even with adult children? Learning about parenting?
It gets harder, actually. I mean, it just changes. You never stop being a parent.
Sure.
It gets a little bit harder when they get older in some ways because, before when they were younger, you could just be like, hey, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more in a position of influence, advice, and knowing when to give it, when to not give it. And
Sure.
I don't do a good job of that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I should say stuff and I don't, but mostly it's along the lines of I say stuff and I probably should have just not.
Always the best intention, right? Always the best
Always.
intention.
I just want them to do the best that they can do, live up to their potential. And the older they get, the more I realize that is not my job.
That's encouraging because you've got great kids. And I think everybody really likes your kids. So, obviously you and Jessica have done a good job on parenting. So, that's encouraging to know that, you still question whether or not, am I doing everything right? Should I be stepping in? Should I be stepping off? But one thing is for sure. When your child makes that decision to dedicate their life to Christ, we feel like we've done something right. Right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they do it in spite of us.
Right.
Sometimes.
I'll take that. Out of anything a child can do in spite of you, to do that, okay, I'll take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But knowing how you've been diligent in raising your kids, we're told to do that for a reason.
Right.
To give them the best leg up so that they can make the best decisions possible.
Sure. And I can look back and I say, well, I don't think I've done everything right, but praise God, obviously something was done right because my daughter made the most important decision and she made the right one. Of that, I'm convinced.
Yep.
Now, she has, here's where the weird doctrine comes in. She has regular interaction with somebody that she works with. And this person saw the post of her being immersed into Christ. And of course, we believe that when a person is baptized, that's when their sins are forgiven. That's when we receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. Acts chapter 2, verse 38. Textbook stuff, right?
Yep.
Now, some people don't believe that, and it's usually those who are faith only, right? Mm-hmm. That it's like apparently when you acknowledge who Christ is, that's when salvation occurs. Sometimes they'll pepper that on with saying a prayer or some sort of verbal acknowledgement, an altar call, something like that, right? So the conversation they were having is she was saying, yeah, this is when I was saved. And he's like, I don't think that's when you were saved. And she was like, well, if I wasn't saved then, on Wednesday when I was immersed into Christ, when was I saved? And she's like, are you insinuating that I was already saved? And he says, yes, I think you were already saved. But the thing is that she didn't think she was saved. Now, this implies what? That a person can be saved without even knowing that they're saved.
Right.
Now, that's a new doctrine. That's something I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
And I think if I was to press this person, he'd be like, no, there has to be some sort of acknowledgement or some sort of recognition, understanding. But I was like, I got to run this one by Matt. Have you ever come across someone who believes that a person can be saved without even knowing it?
Sure. I mean, Calvinist Reformed theology.
But don't even Calvinists believe that they are saved? I mean, they still
they do.
Recognize that it occurred at one point?
They do, but sometimes they don't know it till after the fact.
It's like,
oh, that experience happened, and now
and that was it.
Now I'm saved. Now I know I'm one of the elect. But taking that guy's viewpoint, if he more than likely is faith only. If Maya didn't believe that she was saved at that time, then she didn't have faith that she was saved.
Right.
So therefore, she didn't have faith to be saved.
And see, that's where the breakdown occurs, really, right? I mean, that's really where the breakdown occurs, where a person who says faith only, and they believe that baptism is a work, it's, whether it's just because of physical effort that it requires or because it's a good deed, but how is being dunked in water a good deed? Anyway, But yeah, I think if you were to press them enough, they would probably back off of that a little bit. But I was like, that's a new one. I hadn't heard that one. You were saved in it. You didn't even know it. All right.
He if you press him, he'd probably say, because we've both worked with a lot of folks like this, he'd probably say, well, as soon as you believe that Jesus was your Lord, which took place before baptism, that's when you were saved.
Right.
But then she could retort and say, well, I didn't believe I was saved then. So would she really have been?
Yeah.
I mean, wow, now we're getting into all which proves the point that God knows that we need a definitive line, and we need some sort of submissive action to take place with that. Now, even faith-only folks, most of them believe that there's an action that's associated with it, which is confessing Jesus as Lord. We believe confessing Jesus as Lord.
Don't argue
as
that.
well.
Romans 10.
Romans 10:9, absolutely. So even they would say, yes, that is the point at which you're saved, because that's what Romans 10:9 says.
Right.
But we also believe Romans 6. We also believe, all the other passages. We just put them all together.
Right.
And we say, tell you what, I'm not going to cherry pick the verses on salvation. We're going to do everything God says to do to be saved for the reason God says to do it, because we believe that baptism without faith is meaningless. It's pointless.
I even say it's even weird. I mean, baptism without faith is like you're just taking a bath in public. And I mean, man, who does that?
That's odd. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go swimming, go swimming.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it just kind of an interesting conversation. And, one of the things I was encouraged by is she was telling me some of the responses she had to them. And I was really encouraged by it because she can actually stand on her faith. She can defend using scripture why she does the thing that she does and why she believes the thing that she believes. And, it's kind of interesting because it's like, okay, well, that's a whole nother level of encouragement. It's like, it's not my faith that she's just kind of piggybacking on. She has reasons to believe these things as well. So that's encouraging. Speaking of salvation, we are going over some Isaiah 53 today.
We are.
Which does connect to salvation, I think.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time.
Because
you can't be saved without understanding the scripture, and the prophecies are the way that we know the scriptures are written by God. So therefore, Isaiah 53, and this is what Jesus did in order to purchase our salvation.
Right.
So,
right. So
boom,
this is cool.
It all connects.
It's cool to connect it with the Psalm 22, which is what we did in the last episode.
Yep.
Which seemed to be very well received. And this is kind of like the other big messianic prophecy that we go to help prove divine inspiration.
Yes, it is, because this one is really specific.
It is.
And the thing that I love about this, what God did, he didn't just tell people what he was going to do, but he told people why he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And you look over in the New Testament, and the only way the New Testament makes sense is for the why of Isaiah 53 to be valid. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work any other way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's amazing. I mean, because when you think about what was necessary for salvation, you needed a perfect sinless sacrifice that was able to take on legally the sins of everybody and be punished for them. Otherwise, it would be unjust. But then to have the moral perfection to be able to be resurrected from the dead based upon his own righteousness, and then be able to transfer that righteousness over to the lost upon their faith. Yeah. So Isaiah 53 contains the whole thing.
It does. And that's kind of one of the things that separates Isaiah 53 from Psalm 22 is you get more of the why. Psalm 22 is giving you a little bit more of what's happening. And it's a little bit different than what we just read about in the Gospels because we do get those inner thoughts of Christ. Here's actually what he was thinking and what inwardly was occurring during the crucifixion. That's very important. But Isaiah 53 actually tells us why he went through those things. Not just the what, but the why he went through them.
Yeah, and those internal thoughts are really important because a lot of times you get small glimpses with Christ in the Gospels,
right?
As to what's going on, the prayer in the garden, the high priestly prayer in John 17, and really a lot of John with his interactions with the disciples. But man, it's a lot of times it's in those Psalms, it's especially the Messianic Psalms, where the veil gets pulled back and you see the anguish of his soul. And here, there's still a lot of that in there, but it's looked at from a third party outside perspective. The person seeing this is seeing it as it's being done to somebody.
Right.
And the reason why is being disclosed to him at the same time. And he is just blown away by this.
Right.
Because the people at that time, they saw it in the moment. They saw it happening, but they didn't understand it. So they're just looking at it and they're like, man, this guy must have been a really bad sinner. We thought he was, possibly the Messiah, but man, something bad must happen, or how unjust this is. But they didn't put two and two together like Isaiah got this glimpse in it. I can't even imagine what this would have been like. I've never even thought about it till now, what this would have been like for Isaiah receiving this at the time.
I've always thought about that myself, is because you look at some of these prophecies and we can look at them through the lens of the New Testament and we can put things together. Oh, he meant this. Oh, he meant that. And sometimes there's a little bit of speculation involved. I think he meant that. But typically it's pretty easy to make the connections, right? So when these prophets were writing these things and they're going back and they're looking at it and they're like, man, what does this mean?
Yeah.
How is this going to be fulfilled? And most of them, they didn't see it fulfilled even in their lifetimes.
No, they didn't.
Right.
They didn't. No, absolutely.
Which would make you question. It's like, well, why did they write in the first place unless,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've often tried to think about what they actually thought about as they were writing these things, and I'm stumped.
Yeah. I mean, Isaiah, if he had the visual to go along with this, you don't know if it was just the words or the visual, but you can imagine him looking back at this and seeing, because he'd been writing about the servant for a while.
Right.
They knew that the Messiah was going to come. And here he is writing about the servant going through this and then the triumph at the end. I mean, either he was really scratching his head or he would have just been on his knees thanking God that he was willing to do something like this for him. Who knows?
What a faithful servant Isaiah was, too. I mean, to write all these things, because Isaiah is a big book. So to write about all these things that he would not truly understand, but do it anyway because God commanded him to do so. I mean, that is truly an indicator of a faithful servant. I don't understand this, but you're commanding it, God, so I'm going to do it. Great lesson there for Christians today.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it, trust that God knows what he's doing.
Yep. And we could end up finding ourselves, like you said, in this exact same situation where sometimes in our lives things are happening and we don't understand why. Know that God always causes it to work out together in the end. And what I mean by the end, I don't mean within our lifetime.
Right.
I mean, you know how Isaiah died according to tradition,
was it
right?
Sawn in half. He was in a log and sawn in half. Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Manasseh put him inside of a hollowed out log, and he was sawn in half.
Why would you put him in the hollowed out log? Is it like the people he would commanded to saw him in half was like, I just can't do it like this. Like, would it help it better if he looked like a piece of wood? Yeah, maybe.
I personally think it would add to the terror of it.
It's like it's coming. It's like those James Bond movies where the laser is slowly coming up and you just see it coming. Same kind of ideal. It's like you see the saw coming and eventually you know that it's going to be hitting your flesh.
Well, I mean, if it's hollowed out, he's inside of it. It's like a coffin.
Yeah,
he can't
even
see
move.
anything.
Yeah.
And he's just going to hear the saw going back. And sorry, everybody, but I mean. Isaiah was told, just like what it says in Peter, he wasn't serving himself but us, because he asked. They all ask. And I think it's really interesting that he goes throughout this whole thing, lays out these amazing prophecies. Isaiah it's possibly the most indispensable book in the Old Testament when it comes to these types of things. And if God says this is going to work out for you in the end, and by the way, what I mean for that is you're going to get sawn in half as an example of faith for other people. At the time, who knows what Isaiah would have said? He probably would have been like, all right, I trust you. But now from this side of it, he's like, absolutely. Because think about how many hundreds of thousands, millions of people have come to faith because of this song or this chapter.
We're reading in
by
Acts
itself.
Chapter 8, the Ethiopian eunuch, he's reading and Philip goes up to him and he's like, do you understand what you're reading? And what he's reading is Isaiah 53, which I always find encouraging because we're using the same scripture today that they did 2,000 years ago to prove that the Bible is divinely inspired and Jesus is the Christ. So great stuff. Proves that the Bible is timeless.
Yes.
Makes me excited. Let's get into this. So what's going to be our approach? What's going to be our approach?
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through it just like we did last week. We're going to go through it section by section. And what's interesting is we always say Isaiah 53, but it actually starts at the end of 52. Right. So if it, I can't remember the dude's name that went through and made all the chapters. Do you remember what his name was? what a daunting task
Yeah.
it was to put chapters and verses
Mhm.
into this whole book. But you look back at it afterwards and you're like, okay, this probably would have been moved back. Probably 52:13 is where 53 should have started, because that's where the servant poem starts. And that's where we're going to start.
Okay.
But we're just going to take this section by section. We're going to look at this. We're going to talk about, the fulfillments of them, and the theology behind it as to why it's essential. And then when we get to verse 10, when everything changes, we'll talk about that as well. And then at the end, we will discuss, how do people get out of this, right?
Like, how do they talk their way out of it actually being about Christ?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then the last one, which is what we teased last month, which is, okay, what are the chances of this actually taking place? Because this isn't just one prophecy. This has multiple attributes of it. And again, it's not just the what, it's not just the how, it's the why, which adds a whole different other level of purpose to it. And, I went through, full and fair disclosure, I went through ChatGPT on this one. I don't do probability, y'all. I mean, it's not what, it's complicated.
Math is hard. Math is hard.
And so, but I went back and forth with it a little bit and say, no, let's not to inflate the numbers actually, but to make it accurate.
Sure.
And say, okay, here are the different aspects. I think what it did was way too high. So I'm like, let's dial this back a little bit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All
right. So tell you what, why don't we start? You want to read verses 13 through 15 of the 52, please?
Yep, absolutely. Behold, my servant shall act wisely. He shall be high and lifted up. He shall be exalted. As many were astonished at you, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the children of mankind. So shall he sprinkle many nations. Kings shall shut their mouths because of him. For that which has not been told them they see, and that which they have not heard they understand. Ooh, very cryptic.
Very cryptic.
Very cryptic.
Very cryptic. And that's kind of cool, when you go into some of this stuff, God, I'm not saying God's dramatic. He just is amazing, and he has the command of language.
Right.
So he's able to write stuff that pulls people in, which I think is amazing. So I'm actually going to jump out of order here for a second. One of the ways that people try to explain this passage so that it doesn't apply to a single individual and therefore it can't be to the Messiah. Jewish scholars specifically say that this refers, the servant is the nation of Israel. Okay. So what this whole thing, Isaiah 52 and 53, is talking about the nation of Israel. And we'll get more into that when we get into verses 8 and 9. They say this is the nation of Israel, and it's this suffering servant that's going to be sacrificed for the world and all of this stuff, And it's a big stretch to make it say that, but they've got a couple of things in the grammar in verse 9 that we will explain.
Right. Now, part of me understands where they can make a connection of it being Israel being one individual, because there are scriptures that describe Israel as being a single individual.
His son,
right? I mean, exactly,
and his wife,
yeah, and giving the certificate of divorce. So I can see that connection. The rest of it, I'll be interested to hear how they apply that, or how they what connections they make on the rest of it. But that part I can kind of understand.
Yes. And this passage, the way it starts out, actually shows that you can't do it. Because look at this. Look at what it says. Behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Just as many were astounded at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man. He's making a distinction between the people and this individual.
And a singular individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the point is that throughout this whole thing, he's making a distinction between the nation and the people as a whole and this individual.
Right.
So you can't hermeneutically get there from here.
Right.
You just can't. So, that's just a side note.
And there's a lot of things here that jump out of us. He's marred beyond human semblance. his form beyond that of the children of mankind. Now, high and lifted up and shall be exalted. I mean, you think that's referring to him actually being on the cross or actually the resurrection?
No, I think this is talking about the resurrection because he says, my servant will prosper.
Yeah.
He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted.
Yeah, and in verse 1, I have a footnote there. Under wisely, it says, or shall prosper. Yeah.
Yeah. So you look at this and it's like, okay, he's telling you the end at the beginning.
Gotcha.
This is the end result, but this is what's going to happen to get him there.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, so 13, we're talking about resurrection. Verse 14, we're backing it back to crucifixion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, just as many were astonished at you, my people, so his appearance will be marred more than any man. And if you think about this just for a second, if you think just crucifixion, that wouldn't be the case.
Right.
It was the scourging that marred his appearance.
Right.
And that's why I'm thankful sometimes for movies. Now Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ had some weird stuff in it.
It did.
It
did.
Little demon babies.
Yeah.
Or whatever, little people.
Right.
I think is what they like to be called. But just some odd things. But the thing that I really appreciated was the historical accuracy of the scourging.
Right.
That was tough to watch.
It was.
I saw that in a movie theater with my mom and dad and with my wife, and oh man, that just tore me up. Watching that. So
I mean, it's one of those things I think is sometimes overlooked when we read about the gospel, because it says, because Pilate sent him and had him scourged. And then we move on to the crucifixion, and that's typically what we focus on, the crucifixion. So when you saw that, you're like, ooh, yeah.
And I mean, and that was probably just as bad,
right,
as the crucifixion. I mean, shorter, but yeah, he didn't even look human after that.
Right.
And Mel actually might not have gone as far as what really happened. Eusebius, for instance, points out that internal organs were visible many times as a result of the scourging. That's how deep and how open the flesh would have been.
Hard to imagine.
I mean,
and the fact that he have to carry his cross too before being crucified on top of that.
So, on a side note, devotionally speaking, people need to recognize that they're lost and that God went through those lengths to save them.
Yeah. What really blows my mind is he knew that he would go those lengths to save people, and some people would still reject him.
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing to die for someone knowing that, okay, I'm going to die for this person, but they're going to live because of that. They're going to turn their life around.
Right.
God's like, I'm going to die for this person, and they're still going to reject it.
Yep.
Gee.
In fact, possibly mock it.
Yeah.
Right. And ridicule it. And he still did it.
Right.
Yeah.
Still did it.
Such
is the love of God.
Yeah. So I look at this and I think, man, what love he has, because he could have died in a very quick and painless way. I mean, it still would have sufficed.
Sure.
I mean, Jesus being led away and being born a Roman citizen like Paul, right? And gone and had his head chopped off.
Right.
I mean, that's horrible, but it was fast.
And if you look at the Old Testament sacrifices, there was not torture involved on these goats and bulls, right? I mean, they made it quick so the animal doesn't suffer, and then they offered the blood. Could have been done like that,
Yeah.
Make it like you said, like with Paul, cut the head off and be done with it, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have to go through this.
Maybe at Nazareth they did push him off that cliff.
Sure.
And he died, right? So, instant. But no, he utilizes one of the most brutal forms of execution ever, and it's done by the Romans, who torture their prisoners horrifically beforehand.
Pros at torturing. I mean, they knew exactly how much a person could take before killing, and they went right up to the line. Yeah. Okay.
So that's what this is about.
Yeah.
And so again, I don't know if Isaiah had the visuals to go along with this in the Revelation.
Yeah.
If he did, it would have been tough to watch.
Right.
Knowing exactly what's happening and why. But that's why verse 14 is there. But then verse 15, thus he will sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him. For what had not been done or had not been told them, they will see, and what they had not heard, they will understand. So that sprinkle many nations, that's priestly language, right? So that blood, you recognize right here, there's a connection between forgiveness of sins and blood all throughout the temple rituals and tabernacle rituals. So that sprinkling of the blood, this is what's going to be used to cleanse people.
You see
this
that in Ezekiel 36 as well.
You do.
When he's talking about, I'm going to give them a new heart, their my spirit I'm going to place within them. And he says, I'm going to sprinkle you with clean water. So you see that also being used in Ezekiel 36.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that language is used in Hebrews chapter 10.
Right. And the idea is for cleansing, right? I mean, we're using blood to cleanse, right? It's like, well, wait a minute. In baptism, it's full immersion. It's not sprinkling. It's like, yeah, but this is developed. We're bridging that gap.
With Ezekiel 36, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sprinkled with clean water. And then Hebrews 10 talks about having our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. That bodies washed with pure water concept there in Hebrews 10 goes back to the priest, the high priest on the Day of Atonement, where he would have to be fully immersed before he goes into the Holy of Holies, or else he'll die. And that passage in Hebrews 10, what it's talking about there is that we're going into Jesus behind the veil.
Yeah.
So we're going into the Holy of Holies. What do we need to do before we do it?
The whole body.
We need to have our sins forgiven by having our hearts sprinkled clean, like Ezekiel 36 says, and our bodies washed with pure water, just like everything's. It all connects.
It does.
It all connects.
I like how, it really kind of covers everything there.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Right.
So, yeah, but a lot of times people will just read over that. Oh, he's speaking metaphorically, just like the priest had to be cleansed, so we have to be cleansed too. No, he specifically is mentioning aspects of that still apply.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are our hearts symbolically sprinkled clean? I mean, if that's the case, then we're not really clean.
Right.
Right. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that would never pass for anything, right?
No.
It's like asking your kids, did you take a shower? Symbolically, yes. It's like, well, you still look dirty, but symbolically, I'm clean. Yes. But you're still dirty.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a lot of times what happens with folks is they talk about symbolically, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that just kind of means fake or in the mind of God or something like that. No, what is taking place is spiritual and it's real.
Right. It's not symbolic. It's just, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's symbolic.
My heart was literally sprinkled clean from an evil conscience by the blood of Christ, but it was spiritual. It wasn't physical. I didn't see anything physical happen, but by faith I believed it.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then I think this is really cool. Kings will shut their mouths on account of it. And again, this isn't necessarily going to happen in this life. There's a lot of kings who just rebel against the Lord Jesus Christ. But this is also talking about the eventual statement of everything. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord.
Kind of reminds me of Psalm 2 language.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a great, hey, y'all need to check that one out. That's a great prophecy.
Yeah.
That's quoted in Acts as well. When I find it interesting. It talks about the nations raging.
Right.
And yet it was the Jewish leaders that were raging. We'll just leave it there.
Right. That's not this episode. That's another episode. Okay. That's not this episode. Okay.
That is correct. All right. Let's do verses 1 through 3.
Okay. Who has believed what he has heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. These are some great verses.
And they're very familiar for a lot of folks.
They are.
One of our friends, Jay, went over to Belarus. And I think it was 1992, 94, something like this. I've heard him tell the story. And it's right after communism fell. And so Belarus opened up and he went in there. And you remember, these people lived under 70 years of communism. So, church attendance was not quite, high on everybody's list.
Right.
And they would end up going to the Orthodox Church, which is, you're not dealing with a lot of scripture.
Right.
When you're doing stuff like that. Just whatever the priest is reading. So he sits down with these people in their homes, and he reads Isaiah 53. He doesn't comment on it. He said, who's this talking about? And every one of them, this is Jesus. This is Jesus.
Yeah.
See, it's that recognizable that someone who's lived under communism their whole life reads this passage or has it read to them, and they're like, they know enough.
What is it about this passage that screams Jesus out to them. I mean, these verses. I mean, you're talking about verses 1 through 3, or you're talking about all of Isaiah?
All of Isaiah 53.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought you meant, it's like verses 1 through 3, they already picked that together. I mean, I get it from all of Isaiah 53.
Yep.
But okay. You know what I always like about Isaiah, these first three verses, and this is something that changes people, not in a very profound way, but anytime we see pictures or portraits of Jesus, good looking guy.
Oh man.
I mean, magnificent hair, full beard. There's some internet videos out there where, people replace their grandparents' pictures of Jesus with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi from the start. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
It's like, hey, look, I got you this picture of Jesus. And they're just like, oh, look at Jesus.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's like, it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi from the very first Star Wars.
You got to put that picture up.
I will, obviously. But he's always a very good-looking guy, And one of the things that this shows is that, no, I mean, it wasn't, people did not follow him because he was a good, handsome, charismatic leader.
No, Jesus, if you would have lined up, 50 guys, 10 guys, whatever it is, Jewish men at the time, said, okay, this man is the Messiah. He's a king.
Yeah.
He would not have made, the top 3, the top 5, whatever the case was. God didn't want people to follow him because he was super charismatic, a really handsome guy.
Right.
It needed to be the power of his character, his preaching, and his actions. His miracles.
Kind of reminds you of like 1 Samuel, was it 16 or 17, when Samuel's looking at Jesse's sons and he's like, surely this is the one. And he's like, nope, it's not him. I don't see the way that you see. You look on the outward appearance. I look at the heart. Same kind of thing going on here.
Same kind of thing. And that's why, and even in all the movies, it's like, okay, Mel Gibson picked Jim Caviezel, which he's a great actor. Sure. He did a great job. He, studied for a long time, those lines. He's a good-looking guy, though.
Not bad, yeah.
He's a decent-looking guy, and you look at him, and it's like, oh man, he looks, look, he could have played Aragorn,
sure,
right?
Good point.
He's a good-looking guy, and it's like, okay, need to ugly him up a bit, maybe not ugly him up, but plain guy, no stately form or majesty. I picture, and again, this is just my silly imagination. I picture Jesus as probably, a little bit of a maybe shorter or skinnier, maybe a little bit awkward, physically. And you just would have looked at him and you would have been like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
And then you hear him speak. And it's like at the end of the Sermon on the Mount.
Right. It's like,
they're like, oh my goodness, no one speaks the way this man does. And they believed in him. Right? So that's what was going to draw him. So I appreciate God doing this.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's some great stuff we have in here. Like the fact that out of the root of a dry ground, he grew up before him like a young plant. So, I mean, root out of a dry ground, I mean, that's kind of an indicator of very humble beginnings.
Well, I want to actually take a step back to verse 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Notice what it says there. Who's believed the message?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? God gives people a choice. Yeah. He puts a message out, and he's almost making the connection. There's not going to be a lot of people who are going to believe this. Mm-hmm. Who's believed the message? Mm-hmm. Right? And so you get to the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man is in torment. Lazarus is in paradise. And he begs Abraham, send Lazarus back. They'll believe if somebody rises from the dead. And Abraham's like, no, they won't.
Right.
They got Moses and the prophets. They're going to listen to them. They won't believe if somebody rises from the dead. And for the large part of it, that's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
it's
true.
Kind of interesting when you think, well, Christ was raised from the dead and they still didn't believe it.
Right.
So that proof positive that raising someone from the dead and confessing, talking about God or spiritual things is not going to convince somebody.
I've always said this, and I think it's still applicable today. God always works with remnants.
Yeah.
You go back to the Exodus. Those dudes saw amazing things, and yet, what was it, 10 times they rebelled against them by the time Numbers came around?
Yeah.
I mean...
It's proof that sight does not equate to belief.
No.
That's why faith is more powerful.
Yes.
We've proven throughout history that sight does not equate to belief.
Yes.
At least not belief that leads to obedience.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. Now, you were saying in verse 2 there?
Yeah, that grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of dry ground. I mean, it seems to be an indicator of very humble beginnings. And we're not talking about fertile ground, something that's actually going to cultivate a strong plant, and of course, he was born in a manger in Bethlehem. We've all seen the Christmas story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Read about it in Luke chapter 2. So this seems like it's an indicator of humble beginnings, which of course Christ did have very humble beginnings.
Tough life.
Yeah.
I mean, his parents were poor.
Yep.
When the offering came for the firstborn
Mm-hmm.
to open the womb, they offered the offering for the poor.
Which was
two
pigeons?
turtle doves or two young pigeons.
Yeah.
And so those gifts that the Magi gave them were probably what they needed to survive the trip to Egypt and back.
Right.
So they were poor. They lived in Nazareth, which was not a great place. Joseph is gone by the time Jesus gets on the scene as an adult. But one of the things I've noticed, I like to do a lot of landscaping, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you water a plant too much, it actually gets very, very weak because the roots stay at the surface.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the roots are going to go where the water is.
Yes.
If it's on the surface, it's not going to go down. Yeah.
Exactly. So you need to water it enough to where it's not going to die, but you need to stress it out a little bit so that the roots go down and it's going to dig a lot deeper for the moisture. And that way, when times of drought come, Jesus didn't grow up in an easy life. He grew up in a very difficult life, and he learned obedience, Hebrews says, from the things that he suffered. Now, I think that's an exceptionally important point. If he would have grown up in a palace, he would have had an easy life, or if he grew up with rich people, he would have had an easy life. Jesus had a tough life from the very beginning, and it never stopped because he needed to have the mental toughness and the reliance on God to be able to make it through what this passage is talking about.
Also kind of connects a little bit back to Moses, how we talked a few episodes ago, how Moses says God's going to raise up a prophet like him. And we were making all those connections. This is another one because in Hebrews it says that Moses left Pharaoh's house and the fleeting pleasures of sins to suffer with his brothers, right? Yes. Same thing here. Kind of reminds me also of Matthew chapter 19 with the rich man, when Christ says that, it's a lot easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter heaven. That's not because there's a salary cap to get into heaven, right? Right. It's because usually people who have everything, they don't have an inclination to look for more. Why do I need to look for more if I have everything? Yeah. It can be beneficial for a person to be in a position where they don't have everything because it makes them stronger. It makes them look for something.
Yep. No, that's a really valuable point because wealth does have a way of doing that. I mean, when people have wealth, a lot of times what they're concerned about is getting more wealth.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Yeah. And
how that works.
It's not about, maybe the thirst is in my soul.
Yeah.
And I need something besides that.
I've heard the term, everybody has a God-shaped heart or a God-shaped hole in their heart, and that's the only thing that's going to fill it.
Yep.
And I get that. I understand it.
Yep. And then verse 3, right? Mm-hmm. He was despised and forsaken. The word for despised is the same word that's used of what Esau thought of his birthright.
Okay.
So he hated it.
Very dismissive.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Like this is, you look at him and it's like, ugh, I don't want anything to do with this
kind
guy.
Kind of exchanging the long-term benefit for what's right in front of you in the moment.
Yeah.
Because that's what he gave it up for, right? I mean, it was like a bowl of stew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather take what's right in front of me right now to give me that immediate satisfaction than play the long game here.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. A man of sorrows or a man of sickness, acquainted with grief. And in other words, this is even before the cross. He knew grief. Mm-hmm. He knew suffering. Mm-hmm. And people, you were to look at this guy and you'd hide your face from him. You did. I mean, when I was watching that movie about the suffering of Christ like that, you kind of wanted to look away a little bit.
You did.
And imagine if you were there in person.
Right.
You wouldn't have wanted to look at that guy.
No.
Yeah. He's a worm and not a man. Mm-hmm. Right? Psalm 22.
Right.
And he was despised, and we did not esteem it. We didn't even think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, because crucifixion in the Roman Empire, it was not unheard of.
Right.
Right. So, what would make him so different?
Right.
What makes this guy so different? The Romans are executing somebody for starting up a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That happens.
Right. It happens.
I would imagine zealots used to get nailed to the cross all the time.
Well, he was crucified with two other guys, right? Yeah. So it happens.
Yep. Theft, murder, whatever the case would be. Seems a little severe.
Yeah.
Right. But if your headquarters is in Rome, I don't know how far Rome is. Maybe it's 1,000 miles away. Who knows? How do you maintain control of an empire that big?
I mean, you're going to have to use some fear.
Yeah, terror.
Yeah. It's like,
Terror.
here's what's going to happen if you go against the status quo. If you break ranks. Yeah.
And to make the penalty so severe that you lie awake and think about it at night.
Yeah.
So
it's like, I mean, if you're going to do it, this is what could happen if things go awry.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's check out 4 through 6.
Okay. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. We're already gotten to the why here.
We're already getting to the why.
This is the why.
The why.
This compares to Psalm 22. I mean, pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. I mean, clearly we compare those things, compare them, and we're talking about crucifixion here. But this is where we show why he's doing it.
And also 2 Samuel 7, where when David is talking or being talked about his descendant being on the throne, it says, when he commits iniquity, I will chastise him with the rod of men. And so people think, well, that was talking about his descendant. The passage before that was actually referenced in Hebrews chapter 1. It's talking about Christ.
Yeah.
Right? So how did Christ commit sin? No, that was what was laid out there. And then progressively a new revelation comes out. No, it looks like he committed sin. But this is the actual, we're going to pull the veil back and be like, no, he actually didn't commit it. It was placed upon him.
Right.
And you're right. This is the why. He carried. That word in Hebrew is an intensive word. He carried our griefs, our sickness, and sin. Man, it's a terminal illness. Once you contract it, it will kill you.
Yep.
There's no escape.
Yeah.
Our sorrows he carried, yet we ourselves esteemed him stricken, smitten of God, afflicted. It's like, okay, he's got all this weight on him, and then the people we would look at him and we'd be like, you must have done something really bad.
Right.
You're this Messiah that earlier in the week comes traipsing through the gates of Jerusalem with palm branches and riding on a donkey, saying you're the Messiah from Zechariah. Now look at you.
Yeah.
That must be punishment for what you just did.
Yeah.
You're not that guy.
Amazing how people can turn around so fast too, isn't it?
Yeah.
But some people will look at this, and the question is, well, what does this person suffering in this way have to do with me receiving eternal life? Because it says, with his wounds we are healed. How are we healed by Jesus's wounds? And you can correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but I usually connect Romans chapter 6 with Leviticus chapter 17, and that the wage of sin is death. That's what you earn. It's got to be paid with something.
Yep.
And Leviticus chapter 17 tells us that the life is in the blood.
Yes.
That's how you pay for it.
Yep.
So Jesus pays for our death, what the cost of us sinning against God with his blood.
Yep.
Which is what we're reading about here.
The concept in the Old Testament and the New Testament is redemption.
Right.
That's the part that you're talking about with salvation. Salvation has a lot of different moving parts to it.
It does, yes.
That part that you're talking about is redemption. There is a debt that's owed. What is going to pay for it? So we owe our life, and life is in the blood. So therefore, God will substitute blood for payment.
Right.
An animal could not do that. It couldn't volunteer. It doesn't have a spirit. It's not moral. It doesn't have the ability to sin. So God did that as a stopgap, as a temporary measure to let people have something to put their faith in so that they can understand this. But Hebrews lets us know the more they put their faith in that sacrifice, the more they thought about it, they're like, there's this reminder of sin.
Right. Why are we doing this again? Oh, that's right, because we sinned. Yeah.
Every time. And so with Christ, though, he had to have that perfect character so that his blood could pay for it. And we'd never need another payment ever again.
Right. Well, I mean, because there could be never better sacrifice.
Right.
I mean, when you look at the sacrifices in the Old Testament, it was always the better the sacrifice, the more worthy it was for God.
Yes.
It can't be sick. It needs to be young, no blemishes. It needs to be able to reproduce. The idea, the better it is, the more worthy it is of God. Well, what sacrifice could you ever get that's better than God in the flesh sacrificing himself? That's why we don't need sacrifices anymore, right? Because you could never find a better one. There is no better one.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so he's carrying our sin, and then just the irony of ironies is that we're like, oh, you must have done something bad.
Right.
It's like, not me.
This is actually happening because you have done something bad.
I mean, this
Right.
goes back to Genesis 3, the first sin.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
God takes a look at Adam and he's like, the woman you gave me. And then God looks at the woman and is like, what have you done? He's like, the serpent deceived me and I ate.
Let's just keep on passing that buck.
Passing the buck. It's like, it's not me, it's you.
Right.
And I mean, that's even a phrase that we have in our society today. In verse 4,
Mm-hmm.
and in the rest of this passage, through 6, it's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
Pass the buck.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, that's the thing. What is one of the foundational traits that God's looking for in people?
Humility.
Humility.
Yeah.
Humility.
Right.
And
that's usually when you see someone receiving salvation, those who are
Yeah.
humble to admit, this is, I did something wrong. I did something to offend God. You kind of go back to Acts chapter 2, brothers, what shall we do?
Yeah.
What do we do about it? Yeah.
See, and for me in my life, I've definitely not lived as a Christian my whole life at all, and had a lot of baggage and stuff that I brought from just life in the past. But one of the things I always recognize, I never had the concept. I've always had a strong religious concept in my life, a notion of God, and I've always known it's me, not him.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, what people do, because you mentioned the moment of salvation, you just put it out of your mind.
Yeah.
I'm living my life. I'm having fun, doing my thing. I'm just not even going to think about it. I'll have time to get right later.
Yeah.
But that's a big fallacy. Now, if you're playing the odds, sure, absolutely. I mean, there's a thing called life expectancy for a reason.
Sure.
Right.
Right. But anybody could walk out in the street and get hit by a car, get hit by a bus,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many people said, I never thought it would happen to me?
Right.
And it happens to them.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Verse 5. It was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. A chastening for our well-being fell upon him, and by his scourging we are healed. This is probably one of the most famous verses in this passage, right?
Right.
Now, the one thing that I noticed in the Hebrew, he was pierced through. That word for pierced, it's a participle. So what it means is talking about repeated action. He just wasn't pierced through once.
Mm-hmm.
He was pierced through multiple times. And if you think about crucifixion, you're not just pierced through once. You're pierced through multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the piercing at the end where the blood and the water came out.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So this shows that there's going to be a multiple of piercings that take place.
Kind of also interesting that you think in Acts chapter 2, when Peter preaches the gospel message for the first time, it says that those who heard it were pierced to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know that's in Greek and not in Hebrew, but it's just kind of interesting that people were pierced by the story of Jesus being pierced.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And these verb stems are intensive.
Yeah.
This is really, really small, so I can't tell if that's PL or PUL. Really weird names, right?
Mm-hmm.
The PL is the active form of the intensive stem, and the PUL is the reflexive, the passive form
Mm-hmm.
of the intensive stem. Either way, what's being shown here is that he is being intensely. This isn't just. I pricked my finger with a needle.
Mm-hmm.
This is somebody getting run through hard, crushed, just horrifically,
mm-hmm.
over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then Isaiah adds this, and God adds this, I should say, the chastening, the discipline for our well-being fell on him. And by those scourgings, by those stripes, I like how King James puts that. By his stripes, we are healed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we sit back and look, and Jesus himself said it in John chapter 12, if I be lifted up above the earth, I will draw all men unto me. Every single person has to deal with the cross. It's like we're all, the analogy I like to use is we're all marching towards an abyss. And what God does is he puts the cross in front of us
mm-hmm.
to where we actually have to climb over it to continue to go on our way to the abyss. And sometimes he's really merciful and puts it in our path over and over and over again. But once we climb over the cross, it's a lot easier to climb over it again.
Right.
So this is what we have to understand by this. But I also think you get a lot of people that think, well, I'm just going to dismiss this by thinking, any God that would demand a blood sacrifice is just this horrific pagan God. Why don't we just keep on throwing virgins into volcanoes, right?
It's such a strange thing because a lot of people would recognize, like, let's say their parents, they recognize the sacrifices they made for them so that they could have it better. I mean, in a way, you can look at this the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, God made a pretty big sacrifice for us so that we could have it better. Not to be condemned, to have eternal life. Mm-hmm. So why is it that people could make that recognition with their own physical parents, but not with the Heavenly Father?
Oh my God. I mean, that's a really good point. And I just find it interesting that I think how people deal with it is if they can damage the character of the God who would require this, they somehow don't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Because now I know, this is just some pagan mythological story that took place, and they're taking this Jesus guy who went through this, and they're making this religion out of him. He never wanted it. He was just a rebellious Jew who was pushing back against the man, and the man crucified him. And so people now turn this into this mythological story about this. Here's the problem. It was prophesied hundreds of years right. that is the exact reason why he's doing it. And right. this is a logical, spiritual economy that God is operating in with laws, with morality, with unflinching standards, because that's who you want running the universe.
Yeah.
You don't want someone who can be bought or wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and changes his mind and says, you know what, I just don't feel like having gravity today.
Yeah.
And planes fall out of the sky, or we launch off, and or I'm going to make the Earth stop rotating for a second when we keep going, right? I mean, you want this kind of a God to be running the universe, and all of this is very well thought out. It's perfectly sensible. It works.
Well, what person would want to have a boss your career is in their hands and it's completely based on their mood?
Yeah.
I hope boss is happy today, going to let me go home early, or maybe going to give me that raise or give me that promotion. But if he's in a bad mood, it doesn't matter how hard I've worked or how punctual I've been, I'm still not going to get it. You don't want to work for someone who's making emotional decisions.
Right.
And Hebrews says that God, Jesus, is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I mean, it's consistency. When you have something that's that consistent, you can work with that.
Yeah.
Because there's no guesswork involved. It's consistent.
Yeah.
You know what the parameters are.
Yep.
When things are based off of emotional response or mood, the parameters move as well. They shift.
They do.
How do you operate in that?
Yeah. You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. I mean, not very well anyway.
No, not very well. Not very well.
But I mean, and that's just a job. I mean, but imagine we're talking about eternity. We're talking about the purpose of life. We're talking about our very existence.
Exactly.
Exactly. And most people understand that they have an eternal soul.
Sure.
Because everybody has this concept of what's life going to be like afterwards? How am I going to be remembered? I want to be able to live on. What's my legacy?
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
Right.
My son has a new dog, and it's a cute dog, but I tell you what, I don't think it really cares about how it's going to be remembered or its legacy, because it's not making any plans for it. Right.
And just kind of wondering when the next meal is going to be.
Exactly. Exactly. And then verse 6, as we keep going here, he says, all of us like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, but the Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. Just more of that substitutionary atonement, that propitiation, to use some fancy theological words. But I saw a Jewish rabbi the other day, Jeremiah, and I think you'll appreciate this. Someone brought up Isaiah 53 to him. And he said, this is offensive to the Jew, because the Jewish system is based on works, and the Jewish system has no basis or has no concept of a substitutionary atonement system. And that was my look. I'm gonna make sure I cut over to that. That was my look. It's like,
sacrifices?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Have you read Exodus, Leviticus,
right,
and Numbers?
No joke. I mean, that's all about sacrifices, which are substitutes for
substitute. But the thing is, temple was destroyed in 70 AD. They don't have a temple anymore.
Right.
And the system that they operate under now is not Old Testament biblical understanding. because they can't. And so they created a rabbi-led, Pharisee-led system that is now divorced from the temple.
Yeah.
And so now it's not about substitutionary atonement at all, bro.
Right.
It's about something completely different. But when Isaiah lived under that system,
Yeah.
it was a complete substitutionary atonement system. And that is what this is. The Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him, just like the animals, except this one counts.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of interesting. I mean, because a lot of people don't recognize that today, that Judaism, it's not like it was when it originated, because it can't operate according to what they call Torah.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot follow those instructions anymore.
Yep.
How many Jewish temples do you go into today and they're performing animal sacrifices?
Yeah.
And sprinkling blood on the Ark of the Covenant, you know?
Right.
It's not happening, man.
It's a totally different system.
And it has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be. So it's like, so where are they getting this from?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that people forget is that, God designed that system to conclude.
Yes.
And when does it conclude? When you can't operate with it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since you've been able to operate under it.
Man, that veil ripped from top to bottom.
Right. It's done, man.
It's over.
It's done. Okay.
Yeah. All right. 7 through 9.
Mm-hmm. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that is before its shearers is silent, he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people, and they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth.
Yeah. So this one is also getting interesting, because now we're getting into some really specific things.
Incredibly specific.
About what's about to happen. So when we get to the part where we do probability, you don't take the concepts that are being listed here and isolate them and say, okay, well, what's the chance of him being with a rich man in his death? No, it's what are the chances of all of these things happening to the same person by chance?
And you also have to tie these with other prophecies.
Yes.
Like when you start putting it with Psalm 22, the similarities that they share, and also 250 years apart. I think this is Isaiah 53 is around 750 BC, correct?
No, a little bit less than that. Probably
700?
Yeah, probably around 700.
700. Okay, even better. So that's 300 years apart from Psalm 22, right? Yeah. So when you tie that on to what Psalm 22, and they don't contradict one another, but they're 300 years apart, still 700, 1,000 years away from when these things were going to occur.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
In the odds we're talking about, I only had AI calculate this passage.
Okay, just this one.
Just this one.
Okay.
And so when you start taking all of these other passages and start compounding them on there, my point is, and again, the whole reason we're doing this is for people to say, I don't have to just blindly believe that the Bible is the Word of God, because that's what people think. They think any type of evidence that I have, it's not faith. No, you have a faulty definition of faith.
Correct.
Faith isn't blind belief. That's wishful thinking.
It's the conviction of things unseen.
Yes.
But I mean, again, it's a court case. The people who are on the jury, they didn't see the crime, but they're looking at the evidence to build a conviction.
Yep.
Same thing we're doing. We're looking at the evidence to build a conviction. And that's the definition of faith.
Yep. And that's why we started with the historical aspects of this first, the outside writers corroborating basic facts,
right,
so that we know when we get to here, the basic facts are confirmed.
Right.
Jesus Christ was crucified by Pontius Pilate in Judea, and it was stated that he resurrected from the dead, and a worldwide religion started as a result of it.
Yeah.
And when you look at that's Isaiah 53, and Isaiah 53 then adds a whole different level of dimension and depth through that by stating, here's why he did it, y'all.
Right.
And it flows completely and bridges the Old and New Testament. You look at the way Paul in the book of Hebrews and Peter write about these things, you can't find intellectual or logical fault with how they do it. They're not stitching things together that don't belong together.
Right.
It's a concrete concept that flows in the logical realm. It's like, and then you look at it afterwards and you're like, it had to be this way. And it's a divine mind that did it, because there's no human being that would have created this.
And that strengthens faith. I mean, that's why it's okay to ask these questions, because we're trying to strengthen faith. We're not trying to weaken it. And I get it. Some people say, oh, if my salvation is based on faith and I'm asking questions are an indicator of a weak faith, which means I could be jeopardizing my salvation. That's kind of what they're putting together. And that's why they say you shouldn't ask questions, because if you ask questions, you have a weak faith. Your salvation is dependent on faith. So you could be jeopardizing your salvation. It's like, no, we're trying to strengthen our faith so that we can complete our salvation.
Could it be, Jeremiah? I'm just putting my little tinfoil conspiracy hat on.
Okay.
Can we tinfoil a little bit?
Let's do it. All right.
Could it be
aliens?
No.
Okay, no.
Well, the first batch of that stuff came out yesterday, right?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
No, I'm thinking maybe the churches and the pastors that do that line of reasoning, maybe they're the ones trying to avoid being questioned.
Yeah.
Because I've seen
absolutely.
I've seen some things online where these mega church guys get on there and they say, if anybody questions me, I fire them. And I'm like,
horrible.
Like, this is a cult.
Yeah.
Because we started a couple episodes back where it's like, have you ever been accused of being a cult? It's like, no, that's a cult.
Yeah, that's a cult.
That's a cult, right?
It's not the small groups. It's usually the bigger ones.
Yeah. And it's like, don't question.
People get mad too.
I'm God's anointed. Don't question me.
People get mad. That's the thing that throws me off, is that when questions are asked, people get upset. They get mad. And it's because they can't defend it. It's because they don't know. That's really what it comes down to, is that there's a lack of knowledge, and they don't want to be shown as having a lack of knowledge or understanding.
It's indefensible.
Right.
Now, speaking of being questioned, Jesus was questioned, and he didn't defend himself.
Which is weird, because, again, usually people are defending themselves, feverishly when they are actually about to be put to death, when they're on execution. I mean, they're filing appeals. They're doing whatever they can to be heard to stop from being executed. Jesus was different. He didn't open his mouth. He let it play out.
He did talk, though.
He talked.
And so that's where someone might
people
look at
asked me, he said, "Are you the Messiah?" He's like, "Yep." You've said it.
You've said it.
You've said it.
And then, you won't see me again until I, come back, and then the whole interaction with Pilate.
Yeah.
What is truth? My kingdom's not of this world. He's not trying to get out of it.
Right.
Jesus knows his fate is sealed.
Right.
But he needs people to understand what it is they're doing. So he's not defending himself trying to get out of it. He's just letting people know, this is who I am.
Yeah. And I don't think it's obviously not a coincidence that Isaiah uses the term lamb here, like a sheep before the shears is silent, a lamb that is led to the slaughter, Christ being our Passover.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians chapter 5, 2 Corinthians chapter 5.
Yeah,
2 Corinthians chapter 5, right? Obviously, there's a comparison being made there for good reason.
Yep.
So that death will pass over those who accept his sacrifice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I find verse 8 really interesting, where he says, by oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as far as his generation, who considered that he was cut off from the land of the living?
Thought he was dead. For
the transgression of my people to whom the stroke was due. Now, there's a couple different things we want to just key in on here. We had to somewhat make an extrapolation in Psalm 22 that he died.
Right.
You laid in the dust of death.
Right. Yes. Right? Absolutely.
He was cut off out of the land of the living.
That indicates death.
That's death.
I mean, what else would it be? What else could it be?
Yeah. What else could it be?
Cut off from the land of the living. Well, yeah. If it's not death, tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he died. And then the last part of verse 8 is where it gets a little bit interesting. It says, for the transgression of my people to whom the stroke was due. And so the Hebrew and the Dead Sea Scrolls they differ a little bit here to a certain extent. The words are a little bit different. So the Septuagint has it stating, because of the iniquities of my people, he was led to death. Mm-hmm. And the Dead Sea Scrolls states he was stricken for the disobedience of my people. But the actual Hebrew in the Masoretic reads, for the transgression of my people, a strike or plague was to them. So that's why the NASB it's siding with the Masoretic text on this. So
because I don't have the stroke that is due, or how's it written there in the end of verse 8 for NASB?
For NASB is for the transgression of my people to whom the stroke was due.
Yeah, that's the last part is what's missing on ESV. It says of my people, question mark.
Yep. Stricken for the transgression of my people, right? On the ESV.
Yep.
So they're trying to deal with this because it's a little bit of an awkward reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Masoretic is what the NASB is going with, and they do a good job navigating it, but still it's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
But it's the thought that's behind it. And I could go into, I mean, the word for death, and to them it looks the same, except there's a tav, which is a letter at the end of death on this, that might have gotten dropped off in translation or whatever the case is. But the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint probably reflect the original reading, and the Masoretic might have dropped that one letter at the end. Either way, so some people say, see, he actually didn't die. It was for the people, or the people died, or something. They try to.
Well, cut off from the land of the living's there. I mean, it's consistent, right?
That's the point.
Yeah. Okay.
All you got to do is go back one clause up.
So
that's concrete.
This is one of the things we were talking about when you were having the interview with James. What was it? Snap. Yeah. So we were talking about, well, even if there are some differences between some of the manuscripts, we can go back and we see that it does not impact the doctrine or the message.
Yes.
And I think this is one of those cases where,
it's one of those cases.
At the end of the day, the overall message is he died for the sins of the people.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
It doesn't impact the doctrine at all.
No.
Okay.
And the NASB navigated it really well on this one.
Sure.
He says, for the transgression of my people to whom the stroke was due. In other words, he was cut off from the land of the living for them, because they should have been the ones.
Right.
And again, it continues with the theme of substitutionary atonement.
Sure.
And lets people know that's why this is happening.
Right. Right. And even if that last part is left off, I don't think it doesn't change the meaning of the
It doesn't change it at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, verse 9 is kind of cool, bro.
Yeah, verse 9 is a good one.
It's kind of cool.
We get really specific in verse 9.
Yeah. Yeah. His grave was assigned with wicked men, yet he was with a rich man in his death. Now, the Hebrew on that, let me grab my notes here. I did an in-depth textual criticism on this, and I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes when it's there. But so the Masoretic text says this: his grave was assigned with wicked men, yet he was with a rich man in his deaths. Plural deaths.
Huh. Now again, it's translated singular.
It is. That's where the heart of the argument from Jewish scholars is, where it says, see, this can't be an individual.
Talking about the nation
Plural
rather than
deaths.
Christ. Okay.
Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint use the singular form, which is probably correct. When the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint agree over the Masoretic, there can be made a really good argument that that's possibly the original. But let's just assume plural. Did Jesus die more than one death?
Yes.
What?
He did.
What deaths did he die, Jeremiah?
Well, of course, it was the physical death, where he was crucified, and he died as a result of that. But, when we do some Bible 101 stuff, we understand that when a person sins, they die spiritually.
Yes.
Which means being separated from God. Being the fact that he took on the sins of the people means that he was separated from God, which also explains Psalm 22 when he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Indicating that he has been separated and cut off from God. Thus, spiritual and physical death are the deaths, plural, that we're referring to.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is even I actually prefer the deaths. You know why? Because
of that reason.
Because of that reason. And it's like, oh, we're getting really theologically
really
specific
good.
now.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Okay. Physical
I kind of wish this
spiritual
was plural on mine because that'd be even better. Oh, okay.
I do too. It's like,
that's good stuff.
It's like,
but so the Masoretic is the one that says deaths plural.
Deaths.
Man, that's good.
It is.
Oh man, that's good.
It is.
Okay.
Because he died a physical and a spiritual death. So he died deaths. And okay, Dead Sea Scrolls, Septuagint, all right, singular, probably the one, but I prefer the plural because it's more theologically accurate.
That's good stuff. But even if it is singular, I'm okay with that too.
Yes.
Because all the spiritual stuff is still incorporated here in Isaiah 53. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And again, just that whole concept. And again, I I wouldn't go out on a limb on this one, because really the only verification of it we have is in the Gospels. And someone could say, oh, well, you see, the Gospel writers went back and saw this because we could tell that they were pulling from this concept. And so they went back through. I keep bumping on this. They went back through and put this in there because this was in there in Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look, you want to think that, and then they nailed everything else? I mean,
Right.
do you know how many individual aspects are being compounded here?
Sure.
And that's the one that you're tripping on?
Right.
I mean, I don't know why people, bug out on that kind of stuff
Right.
when all of this other stuff is in there that they have to deal with that they can't.
Well, their thought is that if there's one mistake, there could be multiple mistakes. So how do you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the cracked windshield thing. It's like
Yeah.
even if there's like a small chip in the windshield, that really compromises the whole thing.
Sure.
So it's the same idea there, that if this is wrong, then the whole thing is compromised. How
Yep.
do you trust any of
Yep.
it? You know?
Yep. But I mean, this is exactly what happened.
Right.
As
I mean, the wicked, that's a reference to the other two guys that were crucified with Christ. And it's commonly thought that the rich man is a reference to Joseph of Arimathea, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly it. When people would die from crucifixion, a lot of times they were just put in a common grave.
Right.
So his grave was assigned with these guys. But then Joseph of Arimathea went and asked Pilate for the body.
Mm-hmm.
He got the body, and he was in a brand new, unused tomb that had just been hewn out.
And those are expensive, man. I
They
mean,
are
even
expensive.
today, if you were to have being in a mausoleum somewhere versus, just being in a common grave, I mean, that costs a lot of money
Versus cremation.
versus cremation.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is something that would have been carved out by hand.
Yes.
They did not have the machines they did today.
No.
So we're talking some money here.
Yep.
We're talking some money. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, as much as I love what we've gone over, this next part, man, I get excited.
This is where we see the shift again. We
The
saw that
shift.
in Psalm 22.
Yes.
It's like after he's dead, and then it says, but it was, God saved him, and, he was going to profess God amongst the brethren, So this is also when we see a shift.
Yep. So, yeah, you want to read 10 through the end of the chapter?
Sure. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief when his soul makes an offering for guilt. He shall sing his offspring. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the many, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he bore the sin of many, and makes intercession for the transgressors. Is that not the summary of the gospel message right there?
It so is. It so is. And that's what I'm saying. It's like this, the wisdom behind this
Right.
section
Right.
and how it translates over into the new covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the book of Hebrews is such a tour de force of blending together the type with the antitype, the foreshadow with the substance.
It bridges the gap. I think
Yes.
it's one of the main books that bridges the gap between the Old Testament and the New Testament.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Other books do as well.
They do, but Hebrews,
that was dedicated.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's dedicated to saying, see this and see this and see this and see that. I mean, it's like this is talking about this. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very specific.
Yep. Which is why I got over the anonymity aspect
Mhm.
to be included, I
Right.
think. So,
right.
but you look at verse 10 and it says, the Lord was pleased to crush him,
Mhm.
putting him to grief. Now, some people, again, might look at this and see the pagan deity who takes pleasure in the human sacrifice that
Right.
comes along. But that pleased is not that God was sitting in heaven laughing at what was going on. I mean, darkness went over the land,
Mhm.
showing God's seriousness and his reaction, I think, as to what's going on here. The earthquake at the end, the ripping of the temple veil, and the graves being opened that Matthew records. A lot of things happened.
Yeah.
And so much so that the centurion says, this man was the Son of God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, centurions would have overseen a lot of executions. This was
He
something
recognized that
different.
something was different. Yeah.
Yep, this
Yeah.
was something different. I mean, just even listening to the interaction
Mm-hmm.
that he would have been having on the cross.
It's like, this is weird.
This
Yeah.
is weird.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
Right.
So when it says that God was pleased, he's not like laughing in the heavens. He's pleased that Jesus did this and
Yeah.
he finished it, and
Mhm.
and he showed the love of God to a lost world, that I'm willing to do this for you.
Right.
Right?
Right. It's part of the plan. Part of the plan. And plus, and knowing what it was going to lead to as well.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes going through something difficult, I mean, it's even if it's difficult, there is a certain amount of satisfaction you can get from it because you know what it's going to lead to.
Right.
And God, we already knew, he knew what it was going to lead to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the next part, where it says, if he would render him as a guilt offering.
Mm-hmm.
Guilt offerings always died.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't live.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's showing under the law what aspect Jesus was fulfilling here.
Mm-hmm.
And this concept of guilt offering is very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get to the next point?
He shall see his offspring. Now again, this is like in Psalm 22. It's like, well, how can this person be saved? Why is he talking about being saved when he's being executed? It's a little late for that.
Yes.
Well, clearly we're talking about someone who's died, been crucified. I mean, in verse 9, it says his grave. I mean, you don't make graves for people who are still alive.
Nope.
So how is it possible that this person who has died and been buried is going to see his offspring?
Exactly. It makes no sense.
Right.
So
unless what we're talking about is...
unless he resurrects. His days, he's going to see his offspring. He's going to prolong his days. When you look at the Old Testament concept of Sheol, they didn't know they were cut off from the land of the living. They didn't know what was going on.
Right.
They were blind to all of these things.
See, not much of an idea of the afterlife in the Old Testament days, It
was feared.
Yeah. It's like you die and you're cut off and that's it.
Yep. Yep. You're feared. It was a feared thing.
Right.
But it says the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hand.
What? How's he going to do that when he's dead?
Yeah. See, that's the whole concept. This screams resurrection.
It does. It's the only explanation.
That
he doesn't stay dead. It's the only explanation.
It's like, okay, how do you die and then continue to live?
Right. I guess if the Jews are probably thinking when they're using this as an illustration of Israel itself, that we're talking about future generations that are going to be experiencing this, not the previous one who experiences the anguish, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, and also think about it this way. Did the Jews have an understanding of resurrection? Sure did.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends. Are they Pharisees or Sadducees?
Well, yeah, but I mean, even Elijah, Elisha,
right?
There was resurrection,
right?
They did do this,
right? We saw this, yes.
Yeah, we saw this.
Jesus is not the first person to be resurrected in the Bible,
right? So you would have naturally gone to that conclusion. Okay, they're dead, but now they're alive. Okay, resurrection. Right. God can do that.
Yep.
But then, verse 11, as a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied. So that word is sated. The wrath is gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's the redemption.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Price is paid.
Yep. That deal is done.
Yep. Now, how about this? So we've got a person that's going to go through all of this. He's going to take on the sins of the people. He's going to have propitiation, substitutionary atonement. He's going to die.
Mm-hmm. Not going to defend
himself. He's and not only is he pierced through, but he's also scourged, and he's going to be with a rich man in his death, not with the wicked, because he was innocent. God's going to see it. He's going to apply this as a guilt offering, and he's going to resurrect. He's going to see his offspring prolong his days. And as a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied. By his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many. He will make righteous the many.
Yeah.
Not all.
And that's why we're talking about the that's a good point. The many, not the all.
Yeah. That's
interesting. Okay. Yeah. Because now we're getting even a little bit more specific in the fact that not everybody is going to recognize and accept this offering that he's made.
Because think about it. A universal sacrifice should result in universal atonement. That's what would have happened under the Old Testament.
Right.
No, he's going to justify the many, because another step that's going to be coming up in the new covenant is this is going to require faith.
Exactly. Wow, that's interesting, because I had not seen that before. Now, again, that's one of those things where it kind of defeats the Calvinism argument, where a lot of Calvinists say that everybody is born sinful, but for whatever reason, Christ's sacrifice doesn't cover everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody is condemned because of one man's sin, but one man's sacrifice doesn't atone for everyone.
And that's why they come up with a limited atonement.
That's right. Exactly. But wouldn't that also indicate that sin is stronger than the sacrifice? But Christ's sacrifice is what overcomes. You see, so there's some contradictions there. There's some problems with that.
Yeah, God in his sovereignty just didn't want to save everybody, even though he made them all sinners.
Sure. But I think this is interesting. It says for the many, because that is an indicator that faith is required for a person to receive salvation. So the fact that this sacrifice, it can apply to everyone, but only the ones who accept it.
Yeah. And the reason why he's going to justify the many, as he will bear their iniquities. Mm-hmm. So it's making a specific connection, not just with the fact that he was going to die for the sins of others, but he was going to justify them as a result of him bearing their sins.
Right. So there's that connection as well. Sure.
Yep.
Right.
And then verse 12, which I think is incredible. Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great. He will divide the booty with the strong, because he poured himself out to death. He was numbered with the transgressors, yet he himself bore the sins of many and interceded for the transgressors. I mean, is Jesus allotted a portion with the great? I mean, is he known? He's been known for thousands of years now, all around the world. Mm-hmm. Every religion deals with him in some way, shape, or form, incorrectly, but they deal with him.
Right.
So
can't deny him.
And the reason for it is because he poured himself out to death. If Jesus would have just been some prophet somewhere, it wouldn't have happened this way. But because of the way he poured himself out, like he said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got to deal with me,
right?
Jesus is saying.
And we have some information here about being fellow heirs with Christ. I mean, the fact that I will divide him a portion with the many and he shall divide the spoil with the strong. You know, there's this idea that we are actually sharing in the results of Christ's sacrifice because he's making us righteous as well.
Yep. He has declared us righteous. We partake of his righteousness. We are clothed with him in immersion. We share in the riches of his glory. Mm-hmm. I mean, that sure sounds like we're dividing the treasure.
Right. And this is where it goes beyond also just forgiveness of sins.
Yes.
And I mean, sometimes people look at the sacrifice that Christ made and they just equate it to forgiveness of sins. But look at what he's saying here. It's like making us righteous.
Yeah.
And some people still hold into this idea that we're just wretched, a bunch of dirty sinners that are saved by grace. I mean, is that what's saying here in Isaiah 53?
No.
Christ saved us so that we could be saved and still be wretched, but saved. No, it says accounted as righteous.
Yes. Yes. And the New Testament goes a long way in developing that theme.
It does. It does.
So tremendously.
Great stuff. So again, what are the odds that Isaiah would get all this right? This person, I mean, look at it. So it's he was going to be crucified. He was going to be tortured. He was going to have very humble beginnings. Not a great looking individual. He was going to be carrying on our sins. He was going to be buried with a rich man. People are going to be crucified with him. He's going to resurrect. People are going to be counted righteous as a result of him. A worldwide religion, i.e. being started. So, I mean, what are the odds?
So the way that AI did this is that it listed 63 specific prophetic elements of this.
63?
63.
Okay.
And I thought that's too many.
It seems like it.
Too many. So let's bring that down a little bit.
Okay.
And so
this is not an exact science.
No. So it did this on 40 distinct elements. And so I'm like, okay.
Did it list those elements for you?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
It was just doing a complete numbers calculation.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, 40. Maybe that's too much too. Maybe because I counted like 19 or 20.
Sure.
And I thought, okay, but are there other
like unique factors about this situation?
Right. But then I thought, are there 20 others throughout the rest of all the prophecies in Scripture?
Absolutely.
So I'm like, okay, let's let the 40 go.
So now we're kind of going beyond just Isaiah 53 and just looking at other similar texts about Christ
in my mind to make it more conservative.
Sure.
Okay. So it said some of the 40 it did at 1 in 5 odds, the other one at 1 in 20. And it's the statistical chance of one man fulfilling all elements by accident is approximately 1 in 10 to the 40th power.
What does that mean in an actual number?
An actual number, you're looking at 10 with 40 zeros behind it.
Okay.
So
I don't like those odds.
No. I mean, you'd be multiple Powerball winner, many times over in your life before that. And so then I asked it this question. Let's assume a 6,000 year history. Mm-hmm. How many attempts accidentally, just random attempts over that 6,000 years would you have to do in order to accidentally fulfill it by random chance one time.
So this is like rolling a dice. And how many times would you have to roll that dice over and over again to get this exact number? Okay. Yeah. What are the odds?
5.3 times 10 to the 28th attempts. Jeremiah, hold on. Every second.
Oh. So it's not possible.
No. So
not statistically possible.
5.3 rolls, but multiply that 5.3 rolls times 10 with 28 zeros after it, and you need to do it every second.
And you're supposed to get that same number in order for it to line up.
Yeah, and you'll hit it one time if you do that.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Statistically impossible.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of very humbling when you see those numbers. And of course, hopefully that'll strengthen people's faith as well. Because, I like to compare Isaiah 53 to Psalm 22. 300 years apart, we're describing the exact same person, the exact same event in this specific. What are the odds?
Yeah.
To put actually a number to it.
Well,
that's humbling.
Doc Smith in his book has 73 individual prophecies.
Yeah.
Now, what I mean by 73 individual prophecies, 73 passages. Mm-hmm. And each one of those 73 has multiple aspects. Like Isaiah 53 would be considered one.
Yeah.
And so there's all these multiples. We're not even talking about his priesthood. We're not even talking about his kingship. We're not even talking about when he's going to come or his genealogy or any of these types of things. I mean, the one we're going to do next is predicting the year Jesus is going to be immersed.
This is Daniel 9?
Daniel 9.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that one.
Because
out of between the three of them, Isaiah 53, Psalm 22, and Daniel 9, that's probably the one that I'm least familiar with.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is when I'm proving people that the Bible is divinely inspired, Psalm 22 and Isaiah 53, people usually get it.
Yes.
It's enough. And they're like, okay, I'm convinced. What's next? Right? Or it scares them and they're like, we're done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel 9, we're just really kind of piling it on now, but why not?
We are.
Why not?
Why not?
I'm excited about that one.
Because that one, that one's super specific.
Yep.
Super specific.
Right.
I mean, we're not, Nostradamusing anything here, right? Or fortune cookie.
And when you compound it with Isaiah 53 and Psalm 22 and any other messianic prophecy, it's
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic.
So that's Isaiah 53.
It's excellent. Well, Katz, I hope this has encouraged you and strengthened your faith. It certainly has mine, especially when we're talking about the many, where we see there in verse 11. That's something that I hadn't learned. So even when I do this podcast, I learn something new to take away that helps me in my own ministry.
I learn every time I prepare.
It's fantastic. Well, you do a great job with that. I really appreciate all your efforts on this, Matt. So remember, if you guys are watching us on YouTube, we're also on Spotify. If you see us on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and please comment. If you have questions or things you want to add, we'll be glad to address it in the podcast. Absolutely. So next time we're going to be doing Daniel chapter 9, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, appreciate all of you watching. And remember, curiosity may have killed the cat,
but it doesn't have to kill you.